Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. You have tremendous creative power. You have creative potential. Do you realize that everything you see around you was once an idea that was conceived in the imagination? All images that originate in the imagination are referred to as fantasies. If you have a beautiful dream, and you share it with someone and you say, "This is what I would love to do." And your friend or your loved one, people say, "Oh, you're crazy. That'll never happen. Why would you want that?" You got to face reality. Well, think about everything that you're surrounded by. Flying airplanes was a fantasy at one time. So were automobiles and the internet. Imagine when people used to live their life by candlelight. And Thomas Edison tried, it's estimated 10,000 times to create an incandescent light bulb. Imagine how crazy his neighbors thought he was. He didn't give up. He had an idea of bringing light to the world without a flame on a candlestick. And he brought that into reality. It became reality because he had the idea. What kind of ideas have you got that you've talked yourself out of, or people have said you're crazy? It's just a fantasy. Put away your childish daydreams and get back to reality. Well, we would still be living in caves if people hadn't decided to build houses out of wood. And think about lumber. That was once a tree. Even the paper that you're writing on came from trees. What you hold in your mind, what you really desire, whatever you fantasize about, you can bring about in order to exercise your creative faculty, your beautiful imagination, your God-given ability to think, to dream, to create pictures and bring them into reality. You start by deciding what you want, by building a fantasy. You mentally begin to play with that fantasy until you start to take it seriously. And then you flip from using your imagination to using your reasoning factor, another one of your intellectual faculties. And then you start to build the idea more clearly. This is where the image turns from fantasy into a theory. You take it from your imagination and bring it to your conscious mind to think about it. And then you can ask, am I able to do this? Think about something that you really want and something that you really wanted that's now part of your reality. Maybe you've built a house or moved into a home that you chose, or you're living in a place where you chose the furniture, you chose an education, you chose a career, you chose a spouse, you chose beautiful clothing, or you chose things that you settled for things because you worried about how much it's going to cost. You didn't buy what you really wanted because you didn't know where the money was going to come from. You don't need to know where the money's going to come from. You just need to decide what you really want and get so emotionally involved that it must turn from fantasy into reality. As you think about it, as you feel what it would be like you start to get ideas. Remember, everything you see around you was once an idea that was conceived in the imagination. The car you're driving, the home you're living in, the paper you're writing on, the coffee cup you're drinking from. That was all invented by someone who decided they wanted something better than what was. So you decide what you want, and then you ask yourself, am I able to do this? When you take into consideration that the only two sources of reference that we have to go to, science and theology, with respect to human potential, both clearly indicate that your potential is infinite. If you have an idea in your mind, something you really want, and you say, am I able to do this? Your answer must be an emphatic yes. Yes, yes, yes. The second question, am I willing? Am I willing to do whatever is required to cause the fantasy in my mind, that image that I've created, to manifest into physical form in my life? When your answer to that question is yes, your theory immediately becomes a goal, a destination, a target that you're shooting for. And then when you turn this goal over to your subconscious mind, to universal intelligence, the laws of the universe kick in. And the first law, perpetual transmutation of energy, that takes over. And that picture in your mind, that decision you've made, that goal that you really want, it begins to move into physical form with and through you. You are God's highest form of creation. You've been gifted with intellect, intuition, imagination, reasoning ability, and you have the ability to bring your idea into physical form. That's why we can fly through the air. That's why we can take pictures and magically send them through the ether to someone on the other side of the world. Those were fantasies. Airplanes, internet, cell phones. What do you fantasize about? It's only a fantasy now because it hasn't been turned into physical form, into matter. Everything is energy, and as energy transforms, it turns into matter, into physical reality. What you think about matters. Think about that. Perpetual transmutation of energy starts to turn your dream, your fantasy, into a goal and then into physical form with and through you. Your behavior starts to change as you get excited and get onto the frequency of what it's like to be that, to be there, to have that. How happy, how healthy, how fantastic this would be to be physical reality. You attract to you everything that is required for the manifestation of your goal, your dream, your fantasy. Before long, your fantasy that turned into a theory becomes fact. Everything has been accomplished that way. You think about what you want, you get an idea, you take action, and the universe reacts. Your results are simply the reaction of the universe based on your thoughts, feelings, and actions. When you get emotionally involved with an idea, with a goal, that overrides any of your old limited thinking. I can't because you want to get so emotionally involved and clear on what you want that it must become real. And then you can show everybody, see, it wasn't a fantasy. Yes, it started out as a fantasy, but now this is where I'm living. This is how I'm living. This is who I have become. You're always being, always becoming. You are a different version of yourself compared to who you were as a baby, an infant, a toddler, a young child. Imagine what you want to become. That baby has turned into a full-fledged adult, but that doesn't mean you've stopped growing. Visualize something that you really, really, really want. Sandy Gallagher says, visioneering is when you truly begin to create your world through the effective use of your imagination. You create and hold the image of what you want. The universe is always for expansion and fuller expression. So as you think about what you want, ideas come to you of how to bring it about. You need to focus your attention, focus your energy. We can talk about what we want as if it's never going to happen, and it will never happen. But if you have faith and understanding how the laws of the universe bring together everything of like energy, it becomes the world that you live in. Listen to the conversations around you. A lot of it is meaningless noise and complaints. There's a chatter in the masses of people talking about news, talking about the reality that's happening that they don't want. You can easily get swept into that, and that becomes such a waste of your mental and physical time and energy. If you don't consciously and deliberately create a beautiful picture, create order in your mind, your environment and the people surrounding you end up dictating your mental state of being. What state of being do you want to be in? Happy, healthy, attracting to you everything that you need for the fulfillment of your fantasy? That is the opposite of buying into the chatter of the masses, the complaints, talking about the woes and the worries of the world. Conversations and actions can easily change back and forth 4 or 5 times in less than a minute. Just spend a few minutes getting centered. Your mind is the greatest power in the universe. You can easily waste it and go nowhere. Consciously choose, where are your thoughts going to take you today? Creating beautiful ideas, fantasies of what you want to create, and then focusing your attention, using that beautiful thought power to be in the state of vibrant health, richly blessed in relationships, in fulfilling work, happy, healthy, wealthy. How do you want to feel today? Feel that. Bring joy into into your life. Get into the state of being happy, of being grateful, of eagerly anticipating how wonderful today is going to be. And consciously choose to associate with people who discuss big ideas. James Allen, the wonderful Victorian author, wrote about the human will in his masterpiece, As a Man Thinketh. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. Besides imagination and intuition and reasoning, you have been gifted with will, that mental faculty that gives genuine power to your ideas. If you read autobiographies of great men and women, they all had the ability to stay focused on their objective. What do you desire? If you have a sincere desire to become mentally strong, consciously focused, you must exercise your will. It is absolutely essential that you develop your ability to concentrate. The most effective professionals, executives, salespeople, authors, artists, athletes, they have an outstanding ability to focus their attention on the issue at hand. They're not easily distracted. They give undivided attention to what they're doing. Try this exercise every day for the next 30 days. Sit in your favorite chair and place a candle in front of you. Light the candle and stare at the flame. If your attention begins to wander, immediately bring it back to the flame of the candle. If in the beginning you have difficulty keeping your mind focused, don't worry about it. Just continue this exercise, maybe 4 or 5 minutes at a time. You might try it 2 or 3 times a day. If you don't want to light a candle, if you're sitting in an office all day long, you could place a little dot on the wall across from you and spend a few minutes staring at that dot. No one will really notice. You just look like you're staring into space. But if you can do this a few times a day for 2, 3, 5 minutes, within a month, your ability to focus will become automatic. This simple exercise can help you to develop a very powerful will. Concentration, intense concentration, will give real power to your ideas. When you begin to master your ability to concentrate on one thing, you can concentrate on virtually anything. Then you can develop this invaluable skill of bringing your fantasy into reality. Concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. Bob Proctor used to remind people that you can take a magnifying glass outside in the sun and focus the energy of the sun, and you can end up burning a leaf or a piece of paper or yourself. The sun's rays do not burn until they're brought into focus. When you focus your attention on the beautiful idea that you want to bring into reality, nothing can stop you. What idea do you love that would mean so much to you, a fantasy, a someday goal that you want more than anything. Start out by writing it down, imagining what it would feel like to be in that energetic vibration. How happy will you be when that goal has been accomplished? How satisfied, how comfortable, how exciting, how pleasant. Imagine what it will feel like. Allow yourself to get into that state of being. Decide what you want. Your potential is infinite. You're done with talking about why it can't happen or listening to other people say you're crazy. Write it down. Bob Proctor might tell you to write it down 100 times a day, but that's not just a futile exercise to get you writing. It is to focus your energy, focus your attention, bring your thoughts, your feelings, and the action of writing will cause you to think. It'll cause you to get new ideas, to focus your attention, turning your fantasy into a theory and then bringing it into fact. What ideas have you got that you would love to bring into reality? It takes focusing your attention, drawing more ideas together until that fantasy becomes a plan, and that plan of action creates a new reaction from the universe and changes your world. Your ideas become reality, just like everything that you see around you was once in someone's imagination. The pictures on your wall, the vehicle you're driving, the pen and paper you're writing with, that didn't come out of thin air. It started with an idea, and ideas are all around us. Capture them by writing them down. And then don't just hope and wish and occasionally think about it. Focus your attention on where you're going. Turn that fantasy from an idea in your mind, plant that image in your heart. Get energetically aligned with how it feels to be there, to be that, to do whatever it is you want to do, right as if it's already done. I am so happy and grateful now that whatever fantasy you conceive and believe is possible becomes reality. You might want to write that down on a little piece of paper and carry it with you. Put sticky notes all over your house. Write it in your favorite journal. Focus your attention on it. Feel as if it's already done. It's yours. It's meant for you. And watch how fast it comes into being. Remember, you have potential, creative potential. Everything that you can think about, you can bring about. Use your energy to focus on your beautiful goal and forget about what the rest of the world is talking about. You do you. You feel in alignment with what you want to bring into reality, and you will change your world. Create a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Practice focusing your imagination on what you want. I promise you it will come into being. Try that exercise of a candle or a dot on the wall to improve your attention, focused energy, your emotional involvement with your fantasy will override anything that's standing in your way to bring that fantasy into fact. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Transform your ideas into reality, and I'll see you back here Monday morning at 7. Thank you.